Let's get it going. I'm going to start this with the most pet peeve thing you can probably do, but I'm in between breakfast and lunch right now, so I'm eating. Sorry, I'm chewing into the camera. This is also kind of for a bit, too. These little licorice things that you can get at S-Market, they're basically free. They're only 29 cents, which in Finland is essentially free. And they are so good. And I have to get one every time I stop and go through the checkout line. And it's not the salmiakki bullshit. Salmiakki is some of the worst stuff in the world. I don't know how Finnish people like that. It's weird too because, I don't know, Finnish people don't season their food at all except for salt. And so someone just got way overboard with the salt and just probably was like, hey, we got some salt that we can put on stuff and it makes it taste better. Let's put it on licorice. Let's put it on this. And I don't know how that became to be accepted and thought, yeah, this is good. We should continue doing this. Because the first time I tried salmiakki, I thought my friend was trying to poison me. But regular good old licorice, boy, I like that. I can do that. Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to Living for a Living. Episode 97. Closing in on the 100, baby.
Living for a living, baby. How you doing?
Yeah, close to 100. And that's this thought I've been having. I'm like, damn, that's a lot of fucking episodes. And it's still just slowly growing. But I went back today and was looking at episode 1, the numbers on Spotify, numbers on YouTube, that kind of stuff, and where we're at today. And it's definitely progressed. And this whole thing of content creation, podcast world stuff, and just an idea in general is quality over quantity. And it's yeah, you want to make quality shit, but in today's day and age, with just the constant amount of stuff that gets put out, purely the quantity of stuff that there is, the only way to really compete in that is to be putting out a lot of stuff yourself. And the advantage then of putting out a lot of stuff in high quantity is then you have a higher chance of something being quality. And then also, some people don't resonate and vibe with high quality things. Some people resonate and vibe with shitty stuff. And not to say that you should purposely put out shitty things, but for example, some people don't like Beethoven's music. I personally don't. It's not my thing. I can appreciate it. I can think it's good, but I'm not going to consume it on an every single day-to-day basis. Whereas on the flip side, people love Lil Xan and Lil Uzi and all the Lils. I love Lil Wayne. And Lil Wayne at the time, when he got really big, was putting out so many fucking songs that were also pretty good for the most part, at least to me. And in that stretch of time had so many good songs, but he was, only way you can have so many good songs is to put out so many songs. And so it's this balance of, I think the more important factor over quality and quantity is consistency. But then it's finding that balance of, you don't want to overload the space with some bullshit. Well, maybe you do. I don't know. I noticed how when I took that break and went a month off, or 2 months, whatever it was, this break, that next one back, the RIP Van Life, is one of the best one that's happened on Spotify. And so maybe it was just the title, maybe it was me being away. I'm not exactly sure what the reason for it then being. And then when I was putting out like one every 3 days, when I was doing interviews a bunch with other people, those wouldn't do very good. And so it's like but those were also tend to be like 2 hours long rather than an hour. You know, there's all these like weird little metrics that play into it that you can analyze, and maybe some of the analytics are important, but shit, some of it, I don't know. I get caught up like, well, I thought today, I don't know if I have that much to really say. My notepads weren't super full. I just did a quick little scroll through Twitter, though. I had like absolutely nothing in the COVID section. And I was like, damn, am I really not going to say anything about COVID craziness this episode? Give me 10 minutes on Twitter and bam, I got fucking 17 bullet points. So, you know, we'll get into that as always. But just this idea of quality over quantity combined with consistency is this delicate little dance and balance to find in order for this creation thing. And once a week, you know, the more that you can be out there and more put more out there, especially like on TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, these kind of things, YouTube, you just become part of people's routine and people's habits. And so again, it's the balance of being a part of the routine, but then also having somewhat of like a scarcity. Because if people only think it's going to come out once every month or two, they're more inclined to check it out that once a month if they're truly interested, because it's like, damn, this is rare. You know, we're more drawn to rare things. But it's then easier to be forgotten about. So that's just me thinking out loud. I had a little talk with Ant about quality versus quantity yesterday. And I was like, how does this relate with the podcast, with doing stuff on TikTok, all those kind of things? Because now that I'm back here in Finland, getting more active and consistent on TikTok, where I kind of have a system set up where I can edit pretty much all day, one day, and get like 7 to 10 clips, schedule them out so I don't have to worry about and don't really have to be on TikTok doing that kind of stuff throughout the week except for one day. And if I have just one video a day on there, shout out to Gary V, because that's his post 3 times a day, every single day. Are you doing more? But just one a day that's relatively quality. I'm also then meeting quantity and I'm being consistent. Shit grows pretty quick. And so I was just, Ant and I were talking about that more so in like relation to music, because it was some clip about talking about how back in the day you had to spend $15 to get one album, and nowadays you can spend $15 to buy all the music there is. And how much more of an opportunity you gave that album that you had to buy, because you'd sit there and be like, well, fuck, I spent $15 on this. I'm going to listen all the way through. And even if it was kind of shitty, you'd be like, nah, I'll listen to it again. Maybe I'm just missing it. Like, you give it the benefit of the doubt. But when there's just everything available, you can just be like, fuck that. I'm going to something else. And so that's where you need that quantity, but then you also need the quality. And I guess every little art medium is slightly different. But yeah, that's, I don't know, a little rambled thought to start the episode. You know, this episode, as always, is brought to you by myself. www.livingforaliving.live. Still working on some new stuff. Gonna have that coming out soon. Check out the old stuff. You know, the hat. We got the 5-panel. We got the beanies. Just let me know. You know, if there's a for all those listeners that are in the power rankings, if you want the homie hookup for something, just let me know. I got a discount code for you. I'm really not trying to make any money off of it. It's more just getting it out there. As if you're rocking a hat, if you're rocking a shirt. Oh yeah, I got the crew on actually right now. The Talk to Strangers joint. If you're wearing that, it just becomes a conversation piece. Like, yeah, this fucking weird guy I know does podcasts and some other stuff, and yeah, it's his brand and da 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 da. And then maybe that friend checks it out, and that's how it grows. And then on that same idea, if you like what's going on here, I would truly appreciate just telling a friend about it. No need to do nothing else. Shout out to the 11 to 12 people that always watch all the way through on YouTube, because you also normally like the video on YouTube. Spotify, you don't really have a way to show that, but I can see analytics and that kind of stuff. And hey, if you don't like it, just let's pretend this shit never happened. How about that? All right. And then getting into the power rankings, I'm for sure going to keep plugging this because this has been some funny messages I've been getting. Got one from my homie out here in Finland, Janne. Dixon commented on the last one. Bobby commented on the last one. So you guys are all moving up in the power rankings. I gotta, if you want to be in the power rankings, let me know. I'm going to get something official out. I don't know how or what, but the shit's kind of funny to me. And Clayton, you're the man for saying it. Henny, you might get dropped from top spot, bro, because I started to watch The Rain on Netflix last night because you recommended it in terms of the post-apocalyptic stuff. And, bro, I might try and I couldn't get through the first episode. Maybe it was because I was kind of tired. So it's a Swedish show, so I didn't want to do subtitles, so I had the dubbing on in English. And so maybe because of that, like the acting and the voices just fucking sucked. So I'm gonna try episode 2 with the Swedish voices and just subtitles. But, Henny, I'm a little disappointed in that recommendation, bro. But I do appreciate the recommendation. Bobby, he said that, have you seen Don't Look Up? And I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that one. And ironically, there's some real shit happening with Don't Look Up. NASA just said, like, they're going to check out some golden asteroid that could make everyone millionaires or billionaires or something. And I'm like, how fucking stupid are we, bro? Like, they're literally making movies about this shit. And then 3 days later, it's in the news. And if you don't understand how supply and demand and that kind of stuff works, but if everyone's a billionaire, then we're not all billionaires. You know? Like, that's not how getting rich works. If everyone's super rich, then everyone's not super rich. You know? And so the same thing, if like all of a sudden, the reason that gold and diamonds and rare metals and stuff like that are valuable is because they're rare. And so if all of a sudden they're not rare, they become less valuable. Again, maybe that's some common sense that's becoming more rare in itself. That's why some of you guys like this, I think, is, I'm not saying I have the most sense in the world. I just try and look at it with common sense and then speak on how I actually see and feel and not worry about the fucking ramifications of people on the internet and what they'll say. 'Cause that's all it really ever is. No one ever says shit in person. I was scrolling through TikTok last night and saw the TikTok lives nowadays are insane. They're either some 18-year-old kid, 19-year-old kid doing debates about, abortion is murder, or the flip side, abortion should be allowed after the kid is born. It's there's these new debate ones with people that are not experts on anything trying to sound really fucking smart, and the amount of people that are in there watching it is absurd to me because holy shit, it's just a lot of retarded people in the world, I think. And I just mean slow. I just mean not smart. Or then the other thing I see a lot of is, and see, I do the TikTok live stuff occasionally too. And so watching some of this stuff and seeing some of these people and the judgments that I make on them, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, some of these people are not mentally well. And I wonder, am I not mentally well too? Like, I'm technically in this same group as them, but holy smokes, am I? There's this one guy that is he's a trans girl, although he looks still very much like a guy that does it. And I mean, bless his heart, I got nothing against her. But there's just something off there. And there's like 500 people watching it. And it's like, whoa, what's going on? But the whole reason I brought that up was there's this other, I was scrolling through, I don't follow this person, but I saw a trans woman. She looked very womanly. If I wouldn't have heard her voice, then I would not have ever suspected that what her former self used to be. And someone said, oh, do you get a lot of transphobia or whatever? And she said, well, not in real life. Like, I get none in real life. On TikTok and social media, I get a ton because that's where people talk shit. And that's where people are mean. Most people are pussies in real life. I've experienced just very, very little of that stuff on TikTok with my one video that I didn't even expect for this to get any backlash. But when I said that if you're a girl and you let me hit on the first meeting that we'll never date, I genuinely thought I was giving some good advice because it felt to me like there's some girls out there that think that's what they need to do in order to keep something going with a guy. And for guys that are just looking to hit, then yeah, that's what you need to do in order to get the second meeting. But I've heard girls in real life, social media, friends of friends, complain that, oh, well, once I let him hit on the first date, like, he stopped fucking with me. I was like, yeah, because maybe he wanted a chase or maybe, And so I said that with all the best intentions possible. And I realized that on TikTok, I'm kind of viewed as like a controversial guy and an asshole and misogynistic and some of these things. I'm basically Joe Rogan. And and people saying, kill yourself and move out of the country and this and that. And like, not just one or two of them. And as I've admitted before, I play the TikTok app like it's a game, kind of. And so in a way, I was like, damn, I'm kind of winning. Like, I'm really getting people in their feels. But it definitely had like a slight impact on me where I was like, man, I don't want to do that anymore. But also, I think I was getting a little too invested in it. And so anyway, I just say all of that to say it's only ever people who talk shit on the internet. If I go out and someone recognizes me from that shit, it's always like, oh, I love your stuff. It's so great. Like, no one ever has the balls. I've had one person get mad in real life, and that was after the pronouns video. Which they just, again, we talked. I explained my position in a more complete way. And she said, oh, well, actually, yeah, I kind of agree with that. But the video didn't make it seem like that. I go, yeah, I know. I'm kind of editing things to piss people off or make them agree with me. The way to get popular is be polarizing, unfortunately, and be yourself. And so, but no one ever talks shit in person. So yeah, I don't have any of this shit written down right now. So that was just all off the top of the dome. Going back though to the golden asteroid thing and it being a movie and all this thing, and NASA, the reason I bring it up is because NASA found it. And the thing that really kind of puts my antennas up and makes me a little suspicious right now is if you go into H&M, which unfortunately I do, and I've lately when I go into H&M, I buy stuff from the women's section. The H&M women's section has way doper stuff. I got some jeans from there. I got a couple jackets. But that's not the point. The point is you go into H&M, and in both men and women, there's a section of NASA logos and sweatshirts, shirts, basically NASA merch from H&M. And to me, that just makes no fucking sense because, like, since when has NASA been cool? And why is NASA cool? And the conspiracy theorist in me sees it and it's like, that seems a little indoctrinating. And especially at NASA stuff being cool in other countries. Where, like, I know that there's like, 4 or 5 major space programs in the world. And so maybe that's, and H&M is American brand, I'm pretty sure. So I get that, but it's like, why? And anytime I see a teenager wearing a NASA shirt, I'm like, why the fuck are you wearing that? Like, what in your mind, on like, not from what is there, why? Well, multiple levels. Why is that a shirt that's being sold in H&M, for one? What's that message that's trying to be pushed? And then on the flip side, what made you want to buy it? And what do you then think about it? And little disclaimer, I would say I'm probably like a 20 to 25% flat earther. I'd say I'm like 75, 80% globalist at this point in my life. I lived with a dude in Florida for 3 months who's 100% flat earther. And we rode the car to work every single day in the car basically like an hour a day. And we always talk about that stuff. He doesn't think dinosaurs are real. He doesn't, basically like any conspiracy theory, he goes with that over the accepted belief no matter what. Because he had a thing where his dad ended up dying from AIDS when he was like 12 or 13 by the same advice that good old Fauci gave. Ironically, you probably know what he thinks about COVID too. And so basically the medicine and everything like that killed his dad much faster than the actual AIDS would have. And so at a young age, like, I get his positioning, I get his reasoning and the emotional thing regarding all that stuff, because at a very young age and an impressionable age, he had a major trauma like that was then proven to be bullshit, essentially. And so the lack of trust is there. And so anyway, I just give all that kind of thing to back up. He's not a crazy motherfucker. I mean, he is a crazy motherfucker, but he's a smart guy, intelligent. Like, he's not this flat earther, quote unquote, that they get kind of thrown into this little box of rocks. And so anyway, we would ride together to work all the time, constantly talk about it, argue about it. When I first started hanging out with him, I was 100% globalist or glober. And maybe I'll get into that on some episode. I don't have anything written down to really talk about it, but there's a lot of interesting arguments. And there's a lot of things that are fairly unexplainable that over the course of the years has led me to maybe be, like I said, maybe 20% or so. And it's just like anything, whether it be religion, whether it be the earth, whether it be science, whether it be anything, for the most part, that isn't a direct lived experience, we don't really know. At the end of the day, we're just then trusting somebody else's opinion, whether it's a so-called expert, whether it's whoever it is, a scientist, whatever. We don't really know. And because there's claims that can be made for like everything, whether it be flat earth, religion, those are like the two like really main ones, I guess. But certain science type of stuff, even I saw a guy I really like following through the years, Ryan Mintz on Instagram. He showed how, in school we learn about mitochondria and stuff in the body and those kind of things. And he had this post or story thing that said, we have this drawing of the mitochondria with the other cells and shit and the shape that they are and etc. I was like, but that's just a drawing. He's like, they've gotten that from then, yes, looking at it under a microscope, a small sample under a microscope, but that small sample is outside of the human body. It's just a small little sample on a petri dish under a microscope. And so it could be said, it could be argued that when it's inside the body with all these other factors around it, that it reacts differently and it does some different things. There's some stuff that's unexplainable with the human body, especially the mind. That I say throughout the years that I think we're much more powerful mentally and our minds are incredibly more capable than what we're led to believe. And in turn, that's a part of the reason why I can give slight belief towards the whole like flat earth thing. Because in short, if you then believe in flat earth, like you think it's not just this random occurrence that we're here, and there's much more of a purpose for us being here. Long story short. Maybe I'll have to get in. I'd like maybe just get a flat earther on like a true flat earther. That'd be kind of fun. Would that be interesting to you? You guys out there? Anyway, at the end of the day, we're taking, with the mitochondria example, is you're taking something that someone has drawn in a book, and even though they've looked at it under a microscope, etc., it's not the complete story. We don't know the complete reasoning behind everything. And if we can only interpret and then come to conclusions based on interpretations, but we don't know for sure. And so in a case like me, where I don't know shit about any of that, all I can then do is take their word for it and trust them. And so that can be applied to like pretty much any topic, anything. And, this last weekend was just kind of in my own mind on Sunday, thinking about stuff and just really thinking like, okay, however we started, however we got here, I'm very unsure about that, whether it be the Big Bang Theory, then leading to evolution, whether it be God, and whether that be a Christian God, a Muslim God, a Jewish God, Hindu, whoever it may be, Buddha, whoever it is, a God brought us here and changed things and it was all part of their plan. Doesn't matter. However we got here. Let's just think about, maybe I'll start a bit with the idea of Big Bang and evolution. Go true science. Which, to me, in how my brain works, seems like the most logical way. That's just how my brain works. So let's say we literally started from nothing. It was nothingness. And I'm going to probably get a lot of this shit wrong or really, really paraphrase it. Big Bang happens. One cell turns into two 2 to 4, etc. Da 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 da. The planets come together, stars, yada yada yada. Once the planet comes, we're again. Maybe I went one step in front of each other. 1 cell to 2. We start as little bacterias that grow and morph and yada yada. Fish to lizards to mammals to monkeys to humans. I'm pretty sure I could teach at Harvard. Let's say that's the reason. And so that's how humans got here. Even though, there's multiple species of humans throughout the years. We're the Homo erectus, I think. So just from us getting from nothing to humans, fucking crazy process, right? Then being humans, we have to figure out fire, the wheel, reproduction. Reproduction was probably kind of fucking easy to figure it out, but we have to figure out all these things: language, writing, food, water, all these things. Then we go through war, traveling, agriculture, all this shit that's made us, and slowly we've evolved and progressed. Electricity, television, this, that, clothing, all these things, right? To get to this point where we're at today. And it just had me thinking, like, what is the fucking point? Like, we started literally from nothing in this model. And now I'm here sitting in my room in Kuopio, Finland, talking to this camera that I'll post on the internet, and I'm going to go do all these other things. What's the point? Why? For the odds on all of that shit happening before seem pretty insane. For all of those things to lead up and happen, and think about all the wars that have been fought, and all the mistakes that have been made, all these different things, and then for me to be right here, and there's no end in sight at all. Like, we could still be in the first second of the first quarter of the game. We don't know. And so I just had this like real big thought of like, why the fuck is any of this happening? And it gets into the kind of the ideas, as I've talked last episodes, is an idea of like a simulation. And all the, it's like, memories are kind of weird to me in a way, because I have certain memories to a degree, but in day-to-day stuff, just reflecting on my life the last 7 years of primarily being in Europe and going from Portugal to Poland, then back to Finland for a brief stint, to back to traveling to Nepal, to Spain, to Czech Republic, to now Finland again, to driving around. And it's like, I can remember like some main things and some things that aren't main things that just somehow stick in my memory. Like, I was going back and thinking about relationships or like girls that I've been involved with, or just like people that I've been involved with in certain, over the last like 7 years, friendships, like the best friendships of the times. And it's kind of like, whoa, I can't even, like, I forgot about that, or I don't even really remember that, and it's crazy to me because it's in that moment, that was all there was. In this moment right now with the podcast stuff, like, that's all there is. And I live with Aunt. And it's like, it seems almost unimaginable that I could forget about this shit in 5 years, 10 years from now. Or that it could just be like a, oh yeah, kind of memory. And so I'm trying to tie these all together in terms of like the simulation thing, because for the most part with me, as I've alluded, I've traveled around, I've moved around a lot. And so I'm a big believer in like our minds are powerful and we can really do whatever the fuck we want if we set our mind to it and then work towards it. And so it's tripped me out over this like road trip and stuff, and then getting back to Finland, and just especially when I was in Portugal at that fucking mansion, staying there for 3 weeks, sitting up on the balcony with the perfect view of everything, drinking my coffee, when 2 days before I was in the fucking hood getting my window smashed in. And I was like, how the fuck did I get here? And then 3 weeks before, 3 months before, I was in Finland. 3 weeks before, I was in France. It's like, what? How did any of this really happen? And I was like, well, I just believed I was going to be there. And then I got there. I was like, did I teleport? You know, because it's like, I'm trying, again, maybe I'm doing a very poor job of this. I have no idea. Because I don't really have the memories too much of being in France or driving through France or driving through Germany. You know, I have like distinct little things. And so in a way, it's like I almost did teleport. Maybe this is going to be an episode that you just for sure discover that I'm insane. But I think you already knew that at this point. And where was I going to go from here? So, yeah, I don't even know where I'm trying to go with this kind of thing. I'm basically talking to myself as always. But the one thing I heard, I don't know what podcast, who I was listening to it, or who said it, so I can't even give them credit, but they said something along the lines of, how many times have you worked really, really, really hard for something and not gotten it? And not given up is also part in that. So yeah, so how many times have you worked really, really hard for something, not given up, and then not gotten that thing? And the answer, for the most part, is very, very rarely. And again, applying it to my own life, which is all I can do in my own experience, is, I wanted to be a D1 guy. And I never made the distinction of FBS versus FCS. I just said D1 guy. And I worked my fucking ass off in JUCO and played and this and that and da-da-da-da-da. And I got there. And same thing like starting podcast. And so I related it now to the podcast world is because, and like the brand and stuff is, I want it to be big and eventually like make my living off of that, because that'd be really fucking cool for me to say is I'm living for a living, making a living off of living for a living, Ooh, yeah. Making a living off of living for a living would be a fun fucking phrase to say. And so it just gave me motivation, because it was like, well, bro, just keep fucking working hard and don't give up. And it'll happen. Because the only way it won't happen is if you don't work hard or you give up. Because at a certain point, it will happen. So there's my, I guess, Wednesday motivation of the week in regards to also why the fuck are we here? Some motivation along with some skepticism. Shit. It's kind of warm in here. No, I gotta keep plugging the merch. That's part of what I just said. I can't take off the shirt now. But yeah, man. Switching gears a little bit. This was the first weekend I've watched a little bit of football, playoff football, and boy, was it one of the best divisional rounds and weekends of football I have ever seen. I watched the Titans-Bengals game all the way through. I watched almost all of the Bills and Chiefs game. I fell asleep because it was on so fucking late. And then the other two games I watched the extended highlights of. And man, what a week. I'm pissed though because the three teams that I like and wanted to be in the Super Bowl all lost this week. Like the Packers, like the Bucks, I like the Bills. Packers and Bucks because of Brady and A-Rod. Bills because my boy Gabe Davis, who balled the fuck out and is now probably a household name, although I'm even more salty that they lost, because if they would win and you have 200 yards and 4 touchdowns and become the second person only ever after Jerry Rice to do that, then you are for sure, and then your team wins, you're like cemented in people's memories of playoff football as long as you continue to do it, and he will, because dude is a beast. So I was, mad that they lost in that sense. But boy, what a weekend. Just a couple little notes from each of those things is from the Titans-Bengals game, it was crazy to see Burrow got sacked 8 or 9 times and then still somehow just hung in there and won the game. Titans, I think, got a little too cute on offense. They were running the ball really well. Henry, I don't think, was feeling great. So they kind of went away from it, but his backup was running just as good, if not better. Packers-Niners game, I'm pissed off, man, because while Tom Brady to me is the GOAT, and there's no doubt about that at all, Aaron Rodgers will end up, I think, being remembered more as a human being than he will be a quarterback because of this year, and I think what's to follow and how he's kind of really opened himself up with the McAfee show and that kind of stuff. And I'm from just watching him play, big Aaron Rodgers fan, listening to him talk, big Aaron Rodgers fan. Don't agree with everything he says. Think he gets a little too attempting to be intellectual. I think he's incredibly intellectual, but sometimes just comes off a little bit like he's trying too hard. But shit, that's just me judging. But I really, really would have loved to see him win the Super Bowl this year, simply for the fact of pissing off all the people that he pissed off already. And because there were so many people that were rooting against him. So I would have been happy. I really wanted the NFC Championship to be Bucks-Packers, because then you got the greats, 2 of some of the best, although Aaron Rodgers' playoff record in history is not very good. And it's tough then to really put him in that top 3 debate in a way, because he hasn't done great. But that didn't happen. And so instead in the NFC, we get the fucking Rams and the Niners, which are also rivals of the Seahawks in the NFC West. And so I don't want to see that happen at all either. Although I guess I realize I have been so separated from the Bay, for 10, 11 years. I went to JUCO in the Bay. So a lot of my boys back there were all Niners fans. And I used to hate when the Niners won because I'd always hear about it and see it on social media. But 10 years, 11 years removed, I don't even see any of it anymore. So I don't even really care so much. I just don't want the Niners to win, really. But I don't really care like I used to care. I used to hate on them, and that's why I cared. It's just crazy to see some of the performances versus winning and losing, where Jimmy G, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks, wins the game. Josh Allen throws for 350 and 4 touchdowns, loses the game. It's damn, dude. Damn. And that Bucks-Rams game, I didn't see live. I just watched the highlights. And at one point, I saw the final score before I watched the highlights. And then as I'm watching the highlights, I'm like, how does it get to be that close? And then as soon as that fumble happened, even though I knew the final score, I thought, oh, the Bucs might win this. And I really wish I would have watched that game live, because that would have been a really fun one. Because that almost had the remaking of the Atlanta Super Bowl, the 28-3 comeback, where they score and then they get that fumble, and you can just like feel the energy of everybody on the Bucs being like, oh yeah, we got this. And then everybody on the Rams like, oh fuck, we're about to be the Falcons. Not this. Because Tom Brady, man, he has it. And that's, I can say, Rodgers doesn't have it. Brady's got that it that Rodgers just doesn't have. And I think also, slowly Allen and Mahomes might have it. That other game was so damn good. I don't know how the Bills, I don't know what they're doing on defense towards the end of the game. All you regular ass people that say, oh, well, they need to change the overtime rules and blah, 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 blah. That's just a perfect example of our current society right now that's like, well, it's not fair, so we need to change the rules. It's like, yeah, bitch, life isn't fair sometimes. Sometimes you lose the coin flip, and that's how it goes. It's not like they flipped the coin and it landed heads, and so the Chiefs just won and it was over. I'd agree with you. If that was the rule where they just flipped a coin and the game was decided on the coin flip, I agree. They should change the rule, because that's pretty dumb and it's not making you actually play football. But the rule still allows for football to be played, and they changed the rules like 3 years ago. It used to be just a field goal won it. So the odds of winning were way even higher. And I know someone's going to say, well, 10 out of the last 11 teams who won the coin flip in overtime go on to win. Yeah. Well, defenses, you need to get a stop. And I don't know if that stat includes they scored on the first drive or if they just eventually scored and won, because that would be a different stat completely. I don't know. I don't care enough to look that up. But just saying, oh, it's not fair. They should change the rule. It's just so fucking soft, bro. It's like Buffalo had their chances. That defense could have stopped them at the end of the game like 3 different times. The one time Tyreek scored on like the 50, 60-yard play, I don't know how the fuck he's that open, and then they can't tackle him. I know he's fast as fuck. Fast as fuck, boy. Then the 13 seconds, and they let him go 40 yards or whatever it is in 13 seconds. Like, you had your chances, man. And so just to I thought Josh Allen had a great thing. He's like, well, if we would have won, like, we wouldn't be saying that. And our fans wouldn't be saying that. It's like, yeah. Josh Allen might be my favorite quarterback coming up. Tom is the man. I love Aaron Rodgers as a human and also the skill set. But Josh Allen's pretty damn good. That's going to make a crazy AFC future. Mahomes, Allen, Burrow. All of them are like under 26, I think, 27 years old. That's going to be fun for the future if they can all stay. And they all seem like pretty charismatic dudes that guys like playing for. So the one funny thing about playoffs so far is it's pretty crazy how not one player has tested positive for COVID during the playoffs. After season in the last 3-4 weeks, they're having to reschedule games, all those kind of things. That's kind of ironic, isn't it? Could it also be because now they're not even testing unvaccinated players during playoffs? What's that all about? I mean, it can't be about the money. Because it's never been about the money. It's always been about health. So how does that make any sense? It's like when I heard that, oh yeah, now NFL isn't testing the unvaccinated also, after just putting them through an incredible amount of bullshit throughout the year of daily testing. And now when the money is really on the line, let's not get a false positive. They would never admit that it was possible to get a false positive in the middle of the season. But now when the games really mean something and the money and the stakes are really fucking high, yeah, let's not ruffle any feathers there. That's just so, it's just like, again, it's why like just sticking to your true beliefs and not wavering. I think at the end of the day and the end of all of this will be proven to be admirable. And I don't know if admirable by anybody but yourself. But that's all that really fucking matters at the end of the day. Starbucks also did the same thing where they were requiring everyone to get vaccinated. And then I think this last week they took that away. And so just imagine you were someone who didn't want to get it and were going through the weekly, daily testing to work at fucking Starbucks of all places. Although I hate Starbucks, but shout out to Starbucks because it's one of the best places to do work, like in cities that you don't know. So I hate you, but I love you at the same time. Iced coffee's pretty good there, cold brew. Which, speaking of coffee, I got quite a few tags on the one post I did regarding a Finnish coffee company that wanted to sponsor the podcast. And I actually got one message from a cafe in Helsinki, Enchanté, a French specialty coffee cafe. So I'm going to go check them out when I'm in the city next. And that French specialty stuff's a little bit better than the Finnish drip, boy. So go over there, get a croissant, et fromage, et un baguette. Voila. But imagine you worked at Starbucks and then held strong for that long. And then the week you finally caved. And then the week that you caved, they said, actually, you don't need it. We're stopping the mandates. How fucking pissed would you be at yourself? You're like, damn, all I needed was 6 more days to stay strong. And that's what it is a lot of the time. Just 6 more days. Staying consistent, staying strong, and whatever the fuck you're doing. And so I guess that's a good little transition into, I'd just like to say it's the 2-year anniversary of 15 days to flatten the curve. So I hope everyone's having a good second anniversary of the 15 days to flatten the curve. It's just crazy. I posted one of the clips from last episode on TikTok where I said the part about the Pfizer CEO saying that the 2 doses offer limited and no protection, and the 3rd dose, yada, yada, this kind of thing. And it had 2,000 views and 20 shares in the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And then all of a sudden, just nothing. And I was like, what? That's kind of weird. They're shadow banning it. And then, of course, it got taken down. So all I did was I edited it and put in little sound effects and took out the words vaccine in it, reposted it, and now it's back. You just gotta, that's the thing with these systems and the algorithms and censorship and yada, yada, yada is, okay, they're gonna play this game. Well, you gotta learn the fucking game then. You can still navigate and live your life and say what you want and do what you want. You just gotta figure out the loopholes. Figure out the shortcuts, the roundabouts, all those kind of things. But it's just again, back to that. I'm just Joe Rogan being censored by YouTube or by TikTok. And yeah, then, speaking of Rogan, You know that someone is having a shitty career when they start trying to get on Joe Rogan. And what I mean by that is Neil Young told Spotify to either he's going to take off all of his music on Spotify or take off Rogan's podcast or something like that. And all that means is you're not going to be able to listen to Neil Young on Spotify anymore. Because if you think Spotify is going to go with someone who I can't even name one song of, who's old as fuck and completely irrelevant at this point in time, over the most listened to podcast in the world right now, Neil Young has an incredibly inflated sense of self. And it's ironic too, because but it is a good marketing campaign from him. I will admit that. Great marketing campaign, because now, I mean, I don't even know who the fuck he really is, and I'm talking about him. So very smart on his part. But I also saw a thing, this is coming from a guy, Neil Young, who had an album dedicated to the corruption of Monsanto in 2015. And now he's partnering up with big tech and censorship and wants to get someone banned for saying some shit that he doesn't agree with. It's like, holy fuck, how quickly people can change. That's 7 years ago. I just hope, and I've learned throughout life, but last year's and this road trip, as I've said, almost said, whatever. Things change, people change, all that shit changes. And that's a good thing in the long run. It's scary when you see people changing for what you would consider the worst. You know, this whole COVID thing has fucked me up mentally in certain ways, because there's been some people that I really respect. I truly think are some of the like best individual people that I know. Like kind, smart, trusting, all of these traits that I put at the top of my list of things I look for in friends. And seeing them just completely cave and fall victim to the fear porn and fall victim to this narrative and just get right in line, and not only get in line, but then push the narrative and push the agenda. And then I think part of the reason it hurts me the most is like, in a way, like cut me off because I didn't agree with them is mind-blowing, man. It's like, it's really, really mind-blowing. And so the positive that I can take out of that is that, yeah, people can change rather quickly. And so while that means they can change for what I perceive as the worst, that means at some point they can also change for the better. And so I still have faith and hope. And again, I'm not saying I'm right in anything. But that means in the way that I got cut off by them, which I would say is a bad thing for me, how I see it, they can come around and the relationship can then blossom again. And so I got hope. You know, as much as I think we are living in a Black Mirror episode right now, I also have an incredible amount of hope. Because while places like Israel, who has like one of the highest vaccinated populations in the world, has now just approved the 4th booster to all people above 18 after first. It always starts with the most vulnerable and above 65, and then that's just like the little gateway drug. That's the little weed of vaccines, is you got to just get that going, and then you can move on to the rest of the population. And so they just approved the 4th booster amidst the highest daily cases for them, maybe in the world. I don't know that exact stat, but definitely for them, while they're already almost 100% vaccinated. And so the definition to me, Well, not to me. This is the definition of insanity is doing the same shit over and over again, expecting different results. And so you got places like Israel doing that. You got places like Germany and Austria. Austria already has confirmed that the vaccines will be mandatory, I think starting in February. And I talked to an Austrian friend. Girl actually gave me a tattoo here. Fellow van life person. Was one of the few good connections that I met while van lifing. But she's from Austria, and I told her, I said, damn, that's pretty fucking crazy they're doing that. And she's like, yeah, I guess I heard that there's officials that are going to go around house to house and take people's blood in order to see if they have the vaccine. So you couldn't just get away with a fake card, which no one would do. For sure, no one would do that. So you have places like Austria doing that. You have places like Germany, which are voting on mandatory vaccines this week. And again, it's just insane to me that places like Austria and Germany are doing things where they then need government officials to go house to house to check if someone has a certain thing and carry paperwork and check paperwork in the streets. It's the whole history thing. And Germans and Austrians would say they're incredibly smart, and I think they are, but they're just too smart. Because that could never happen again, yet it kind of is. So on one hand, you have those kind of places happening. But then on the other hand, you have places like England, Ireland, which have already pretty much gotten rid of all restrictions and mandates and those kind of things. I think I read that Denmark is voting on it this week and thinking it's very likely that they'll get rid of all restrictions and mandates and that kind of stuff. Then you also have protests going on all over the fucking world that have been going on for months. Of course, mainstream media doesn't show it at all, but there was just a protest in Helsinki this past week. Thousands of people. I don't watch the news here, so I can't say if it was on the news or not. I would guess if it made the news, it was for 10 seconds, and they were all declared anti-vaxxers and bad human beings. But you got places, Helsinki, London, Paris, Brussels, all these places where people are standing up for it. Very little coverage. And the reason, from what I've heard from some English friends of why England has gotten rid of all restrictions and that kind of stuff is because people just said, fuck you, we're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to follow these stupid fucking rules. I think structure is a great thing. It helps people out a lot in many different ways. Whether it be in your own life, whether it be governmental, whether it be anything. Without structure, there would be a lot of problems. So that, in then terms in structure, there's rules. And so rules then need to be followed. Yes, I agree. But stupid rules and rules that don't make fucking sense should be broken. That's just... And so the British people said, man, fuck these rules. You can't arrest us all. We can't all get fined. We can't all go to jail. And it eventually worked. Because nowhere ever in history have people complied into getting their freedom back. If you think that, we just got to comply with this rule, and then we just got to comply with this rule, even though the rule doesn't make sense to me, and I don't agree with the rule, we got to go along with it because then it'll all be over and we'll go back to normal. If that's what you think, I'm sorry, but you're fucking stupid. That's just not how it works. And so I'm honestly getting a little tired of it here. I don't mind it. The life here is cool. But since I arrived, I've been here about a month now. Haven't gone out once. You can't go out. Although I heard bars might be opening up this week. Is that true? And I just was thinking the other day, I was like, well, what if like just all the bars opened and everyone just went out and did it? Like, could we just all come to an agreement that we're going to do that? Like, they can't get everybody in trouble. And I'm not sitting here trying to incite some revolution. It's just thinking out loud. But if all the bars opened, because it's not like, it can't be that all the cops agree that the bars should be punished and stuff. You know, the amount of cops and doctors and nurses and stuff that I know personally in multiple countries that don't agree with anything that's going on, yet haven't spoken up or anything about it because they're just doing their job, is crazy. And while I fully understand their point, because at the end of the day, they're doing what they feel is the best way for them to survive, the best thing that'll make them happy, and survival makes you happy. I also don't respect it a ton. Because at what point, where does the line get drawn in the sand? Where you're given an order, you're given a specific thing to do, and even though that is just doing your job, at what point then do you say, well, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to enforce that. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to recommend that. At what point does that happen? And so in a case like right now with masks and all those kind of things, yeah, okay, if you're a cop and you got to tell someone to put their mask on, whatever, like I really hope you're not giving anybody fucking tickets for it, or arresting people, which they're doing, or same thing with like vax passes in places. Like, but yeah, you got to enforce it. You got to check it. Okay. All right. I don't agree with it. You might not agree with it. It's relatively harmless. But what if that next step is you got to arrest them? You got to charge them. You got to kill them. Yeah, the third one's extreme. But what if? Like, are you then going to say at that point, no, the line's drawn? Because to a certain degree, man, like it's on the subject of masks, is we're all wearing masks, physically or figuratively. And I've made a real attempt over the last 5 to 6 years, once I've became aware of this, that I'm like very rarely I'm trying not to ever wear masks. I'm trying to always just be me. Whether I'm talking to my mom, whether I'm talking to my girl, whether I'm talking to my best friend, whether I'm talking to a stranger, whether I'm talking to a 10-year-old kid. I would like my being, my way of being, to always be the same. Whether I'm at football practice, whether I'm at the grocery store, whether I'm at the bar, whether I'm at some fancy event. I don't really go to those, but no matter where I'm at, who I'm with, I have no mask on. I'm just me. But it could be argued that maybe I just have one mask that I'm always wearing. But that's still better to me than 2 masks or 3 masks. Because then I think there's some like Japanese proverb or something that says, you know, when you're truly alone, that's the mask. You're then truly maskless. And, you know, I'll say I'm still slightly different when I'm alone than when I am with people. You know? But the thing that to try and relate all those things together is for the people that are just doing their job. What they're saying by that is, hey, I'm just wearing this mask right now. This isn't really me, but it's the mask that I'm wearing right this second. It's like, well, the longer you wear that mask, the more comfortable it's going to get. And the longer you wear that mask, the more you're going to forget about these other masks. And if this one mask that you wear makes you money, you're going to be more apt to keep that mask on. So I don't know where we go from here. Damn, I haven't had to look at my notes hardly at all, and I've covered pretty much everything I've talked about. I still got some Finnish stuff to get to. This last week, I lived every Finnish person's nightmare. And what I mean by that, I live on the 8th floor, and I got into the lobby, and there was another person down in the lobby, one of my neighbors, waiting for the elevator. And so first, we had to sit there and wait for the elevator to come all the way down. And he kind of said something to me. I said, I'm sorry, I don't speak Finnish. And I know the stereotype that Finnish people don't want to talk to their neighbors. They for sure don't want to have a conversation in the elevator. So I respect that. I necessarily don't really want to have that conversation either. I think I was listening to a podcast, so like I was fine with abiding by it, even though I do like having little random conversations. And he talked to me first, and so I thought, oh, all right. I said, sorry, I don't speak English, or I don't speak Finnish. We got to talking. He said, oh, well, what floor do you live on? I said, the 8th. He goes, oh, I live on the 7th. And I said, well, sorry, bro. We're going to have to ride this elevator together. Ironically, he wanted to have a conversation. So we got in the elevator. We talked. Yeah, he'd been living here for 15 years in Kuopio. I said, I've been here about 1. Went back and forth for a little bit. I don't even remember what the hell we talked about. It was a true American small talk bullshit conversation. It ended with me introducing myself. Have a nice day. His name was Nico. And now I know my neighbor, or one of them. But I just chuckled as I got out of the elevator, and I was like, ha. Finnish people are full of shit. They want to have that conversation. No, I'm joking. Most of them don't. But this guy does. And some guys do. And I feel bad then for the Finnish people that do like to talk to random strangers and like to have the small talk. Because your culture has pretty much made it impossible or illegal. Because even if two people that want to do it and like to do it are next to each other, they're both probably thinking, well, the other guy doesn't want me to do this and I shouldn't do this. So, no, I'm not going to say anything. Except for Moy. So I feel bad for y'all in that regard. It's like, damn, man. It's okay. It's all right to talk about the weather. Say how you're doing and say okay. Ask your neighbor how long they've lived here. That's fun, man. Who knows? Who knows? You might need them at some point. But yeah, that one just made me laugh. And then it's also hilarious to me because on TikTok, Finnish people that don't like me will constantly say on my videos that all my videos that I ever see of you are of you complaining. And so when I get that comment, I'll look at their profile and I see that their profile says they're not following me. So then I know that all of the videos that they've seen of me are now have been on their For You page. And as the For You page explains, that's the videos that TikTok has determined are the best thing for you. So, if the videos of mine that you consider complaining, which I have more than just complaining videos, that is a you problem. That is not a me problem. Because TikTok is just saying, well, you engage and like with videos of people complaining more than you like videos of people being positive. So here, we're going to show you more videos of complainers. And then I guess these last little sections about Finland. Oh, these are just little like TikTok clips as I talk about. So they don't flow as good as the rest of the podcast, if the podcast flows well at all. But I've also gotten a little shit because, I say, well, the Finnish government's not that bad, even though I don't agree with what bullshit that's going on, yada yada. And I made the joke last week about it's nice because the Finnish Prime Minister, Sanna Marin, which people don't like because she's a girl and other things, like she can at least think and speak. And those two things haven't been readily available for U.S. presidents over the last 6 years. And so you should just be lucky and thankful for what you have. And so then people counter and say, well, she doesn't even think either. And I'm like, huh. So are you saying that you're a lot more similar to Americans than you'd like to? And then people say, well, she didn't say anything. She's going to start World War III with Russia. I can't believe what she said there. And I haven't looked too much into the whole Ukraine, Russia, America, world conflict that goes on. It's hard to know what actually is real and what isn't and all that stuff. I'd like to learn a little bit more about it, as I kind of have. Finland has ties with Russia, whether they want to or not, simply from geography and history. And so, but I looked up the clip and she said, we're willing to impose sanctions and be strong if Russia invades Ukraine. And I understand the argument that says, well, it's not our war to fight, and so we're not going to worry about it. But also, what do you want her to say in that situation? Do you want her to say, well, if Russia does something, we're going to do nothing? Do you want her to come out and say that? We would get our asses kicked by Russia, so we're not going to do anything because we're little bitches. Is that what you want her to say? No, you'd complain if she said that. I would much rather her take a strong standpoint because, what I just said about not being able to do anything and being bitches isn't true. Finland's done pretty well recent history against Russia. I also think being neutral is a smart idea. I don't know where I'm really going with that. We'll see if I keep that even in there. I got to check up a little bit more. Biden's talking tough about individual sanctions on Putin and stuff like that. And Putin doesn't give a fuck about Joe Biden, man. Joe Biden barely gives a fuck about Joe Biden. So we'll see. That I think a lot of this Russia war talk, at least in the U.S. media and other media, is just the next. It's just the next chapter of fear porn that's going to hit the world. Because slowly but surely, people are not being very scared of Corona anymore. And so the news and the media and the powers that be need to instill some fear into the people. And what better way than another World War III, which I think we're going to see in our lifetime. This period from 1944 till now has been relatively the most peaceful worldwide time ever in the world. Yeah, there's been certain conflicts in certain areas, but from a worldwide standpoint, it's the completely most peaceful time that's ever been. So we're due for some shit to pop off. And I think with the Chinese-Taiwanese situation, just China in general seems like they're gearing up. And whether it's going to be a war of actual fighting or it's going to be a cyber war or a bioengineered war, which maybe it's already started. I don't know. But we're due for some shit to happen. So that's probably going to pop off, I'd say, in the next 20 years, 40 years? In my lifetime, I think it will. But also on the flip side, what better way to keep the fear levels at an all-time high as they're starting to fade with old Corona being not that serious and Omicron basically being the cold, than to say war, or to say that monkeys escaped from a truck headed to the lab in Pennsylvania. That's also been a movie. Again, I don't know if real life is copying Hollywood or Hollywood copies real life. Can't really figure that one out, but that's happening. Don't Look Up with the meteor asteroid that's worth $1 quadrillion. Monkeys escaping. Black Mirror. I'm waiting for the Sweet Tooth to come true. I'm waiting for these hybrid kids to come out. I mean, there was the movie that I talked about series that I talked about last week, Station 11. A flu takes out the world. So it's we're on the verge of it, you guys. And again, what's the fucking point of us doing any of this anyway? So start doing whatever the fuck you want. If you're working a shitty job at this point that you're not happy with, and there's something you'd rather be doing, or you're in a shitty relationship, or you want to try and get with somebody and that you have had a crush on forever, man, go fucking do it. Because odds say right now is some of the better times we're going to have in the next 40 years. I saw the chart. There's the saying of strong men create good times create weak men create bad times create strong men, and the cycle continues. And I saw a little chart on Twitter regarding that saying and uses dates and uses a lot of dates for the time periods of it. And right now, according to this thing on Twitter, we're in the weak men create bad times thing. So, and we just started it. So that means that right now is the best time of the worst times. So do whatever the fuck you want. Live for a living, baby. Ended on some motivational David Goggins shit. Alrighty. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Check out the website. Shoot me a message, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. To all 11, 12 of you on YouTube and maybe 15 of you that are listening on Spotify, still at the hour 24 mark. Appreciate you, love you, and until next time, much love. Holla.